Right now, President Trump is gearing up for today's landmark summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin on U.S. soil. He's expected to leave the White House at any minute. The leaders will meet at an American military base in Anchorage, Alaska. Mr. Trump says this meeting is just a starting point for future talks, which could include Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
I'll know within the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or 5 minutes, like we tend to find out, whether or not we're going to have a good meeting or a bad meeting. And if it's a bad meeting, it'll end very quickly. And if it's a good meeting, we're going to end up getting peace in the pretty near future.
And this is interesting. Yesterday, hundreds of Alaskans took to the streets in Anchorage to protest today's meeting. You see people here waving the Ukrainian flag and signs that read, "Go home, Putin, get lost, Trump," and "Alaska stands with Ukraine." We've got team coverage on this for you this morning. Ramy Inocencio is standing by in London following what world leaders are saying about this. But let's start with Taurean Small on Capitol Hill. Good morning, Taurean. So what are each side's position coming into these talks, and why is the White House downplaying the significance?
Well, Errol, the president spent the past week pretty much tempering expectations about this meeting. Like we just heard in that clip, he's pretty much previewing a sequel, saying this is an important first step, but he's really anticipating that peace deal making process to happen in a second meeting that could potentially happen with Putin and Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky. Whether or not that will become a trilateral meeting is something that he says he'll explore down the road if this happens to be successful. The problem, though, that we're seeing is that there aren't any real deliverables that the president is expecting from this, which is why we're seeing some criticism around this. But one thing that was made clear was that European leaders and Ukrainian leader Zelensky is at least hoping for the president to press Putin to agree to a ceasefire in the interim before peace deal is on the table.
And Taurean, some Ukrainian and European leaders say the summit is already a win for Putin. Why is that?
Well, it's the fact that Zelensky won't be a part of this conversation. We actually heard from former national security advisor for Trump, John Bolton, yesterday during a conversation he had with Major Garrett on CBS's The Takeout. He said that this is a win for Putin because this will not involve Ukraine's best interests if they're not a part of the conversation. Take a listen to what he had to say.
There's no Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine. There are no pesky Europeans around. Putin has Trump for a scheduled 4 hours one-on-one to try to work his magic to restore the Donald-Vladimir friendship. And if he does, then he intends to use it to sell his peace plan and for other objectives. Putin couldn't have asked for a better set of circumstances.
Now, President Trump obviously disagrees with this. In a post to his social media site, Truth Social, he bashed what he called unfair media about him heading into this. He also called John Bolton a loser, among other things. But he said ultimately this is an important first step, which is why he's taking it. And he believes that this could be a way forward to that eventual peace deal if it were to happen, Errol.
All right, Taurean, thank you very much. As we've discussed, European leaders are voicing what they want out of today's summit. CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio has more on that from our London bureau. Good morning, Ramy. Just give us a bit more context on what would be considered a positive result today.
Errol, yeah, good morning. Well, if Putin agreed to a ceasefire, that might be the best case scenario for Ukraine. But really, that would also depend on what he asks for, what he demands for in return. Notably, 2 of the 5 ministers joining Putin deal in the country's finances, its investment, and that implies that there will be economic considerations, perhaps the lifting of crippling oil sanctions that we know had been in place for the past few years. But worst case scenario, that they agree to push Ukraine to give up all the land that Moscow controls and give up all hopes of joining NATO.
Invading Ukraine 3.5 years ago, Russia's President Vladimir Putin thought it would be a lightning victory. Since then, Ukraine's military has killed or wounded nearly 1 million Russian troops, says a Washington-based think tank, while Ukrainian forces have suffered an estimated 400,000 casualties. Russia now controls a fifth of the country.
How did Russia's invasion change?
We've been on the war's front lines with weary, traumatized soldiers in their trenches and with fresh, masked faces at sniper training in Ukraine's eastern forests. But Russia's military has surged even this week, its soldiers purportedly raising Russian flags in victory. Now, President Donald Trump and Russia's President Vladimir Putin meet to discuss Ukraine's future, but alarmingly, without its president, Volodymyr Zelensky.
You don't have the cards right now.
From Trump's White House, it's been a tense past 6 months, with doubt whether U.S. support would continue. Lifted at times by cautious optimism.
Getting a good outcome for Ukraine is not just a matter of right and wrong.
In Europe, Zelensky found rock-solid unity, the coalition of the willing, led by the UK, with France, Poland, Italy, Finland, NATO, and the European Union. Culminating in this tight embrace, Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer's last show of solidarity for the world to see. Through this whole time, Ukrainian support for a ceasefire has risen to a majority. Its military and drones still trying to hit back this week against a neighbor that dwarfs it in size and power.
And Zelensky and his European allies have been in quiet mode as we count down these final hours before the summit. Errol, one possible win for Ukraine is if there is another summit, which Trump, we know, has suggested, that Zelensky will actually be at that table.
That would be a positive development. Ramy, thank you. And we will have more coverage of the Trump-Putin talks later this hour. I'll speak with a member of Ukraine's parliament about her country's perspective. And of course, we'll have continuing coverage, including special reports from Alaska at key moments right here on CBS News 24/7.